Hello and welcome to the very first episode of the Northeast Hoopcast. I'm Logan Pronto. Today I'm joined by a very special guest, Division III men's All-American and Keene State's very own Jeff Hunter. Jeff, thanks for being here today, man.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Yeah, of course. Obviously this season, you and the guys had a tremendous season. Quite a few accolades for, not only the team, but the players of the team. Just going to compare this year to last year when you were kind of the underdogs, barely snuck into the tournament with that win at UMass Dartmouth. And then you go to Swarthmore and you get a win in the first round. So we'll just talk about those experiences and how they benefited you this season.
Yeah, I think last year was quite an interesting year. It could have gone either way. It came down to an alley-oop to finish the game. So, anything could have happened that changed the outcome of that game. We could have been seeing us watching the tournament instead of playing in it. So getting that feeling of, winning a game like that, it kind of changed the culture of the program and understanding that, hey, we're playing more than just the LEC Conference Championship. I think that was a goal of ours, was always to compete in the national tournament, but it was never really a goal of ours to try and win a national championship. And that was never even a thought of many of ours. Or it was, but essentially we were trying to beat Dartmouth just to get a chance to play in that tournament. So going off of that season, we were a young group of guys. I think James was we had a couple seniors. James was a senior that played heavy minutes, and he was great. He had a great career here. He was very helpful. He was dominant in that last game, but we had been going through COVID still, so he actually didn't play in that Swarthmore game. So we kind of got a sneak peek at what our crew would be in the next year, which was this year. So we started the same group. It was Nate, Mason, Octavio, Jarek, and me when we played Swarthmore last year. So we knew that going back into it, we would have a good chance of being another good team and getting some national attention and hopefully competing to win a national championship, which is our goal. So we really were focused on that. We understood what it took, and we tried to establish our culture and structure our practices and our off season just to align with that and hopefully set ourselves up. Unfortunately, we fell short. We got into the Sweet 16, won a Little East Conference, undefeated in the Little East Conference, a bunch of accolades, but ultimately everybody's still very hungry for next season and already working towards next season because we fell short of our ultimate goal of winning the national championship, but we took a big step in the program's history. So
Yeah, for sure. And you of course mentioned that these guys are a year older, and it's pretty much the same group from that Swarthmore game. Just as a leader of the team, an upperclassman, how important is it that you set the team culture and you have the team chemistry? How does that lead to your success?
Ultimately, I feel like that's everything. What it comes down to is how bought in is everybody on the team? Is everybody feeling that they have the same value when it comes to bringing it every single day to be the best version of ourselves when it comes to game day and playing our best basketball at the end of the year? So having that culture is the most important thing. Guys need to be coming in and play, like our coach always says, it's a player-driven program where guys are giving their best effort every single day just to have a chance at winning a national championship. There's a lot of luck involved, but you can prepare yourself mentally and physically for that and have a good shot.
Yeah, and I've always told people that, you got between the managers, the coaches, the practice players, people who come off the bench for you guys, and the starters, it all just seems like it's all one brain. And then, of course, we obviously mentioned that some of those guys did play last year. Just going to talk about a couple of new guys this year, the transfers, Spencer Aronson and Tameen Dupree, who come in, make an impact immediately. Do you think it's easier because of that team culture and because of the team chemistry for them to just make an impact right away?
Yeah, this team, just the bond that we have on and off the court is, you don't get it at many other schools, especially Division III schools. Maybe you could see it at other levels, but we have a good group, good chemistry. Everybody gets along with each other. So I think having transfers like Spencer coming in first semester, having an immediate impact with just an absolute knockdown shooter that plays his heart and soul out. That kid will. We won't tell him stories or anything like that, but he's a nutcase, but he plays his balls off, and he's just an absolute awesome person to have on the team. So he fit right in when he got here. He wasn't a shy kid. I think it's hard when you come into a program that's got something established, but with our culture, like we were talking about, we're a welcoming culture. We know what we want, what we need to win, and if the guys are bought in, I mean, everybody's got their best shot. Everybody has an equal chance to become something special. And then having Tameen come in second semester, it's a little odd. You don't see that happen very often in at all in college basketball. So we actually had that happen my freshman year, where we had a guy, Jalen Franklin, transferring from the College of Worcester. So I had seen it happen before, and I knew that it was capable of happening in our culture and our group of guys that just want to win and do what's best for the team. We were welcoming him with open arms, and he fit right in. I mean, it took him a little bit to get adjusted to the system, get his legs under him, because he hadn't played in over a year or close to it. He played in the beginning of the season, but he took quite some time off. So getting back into it and getting his legs under it and being confident in himself took some time, a couple games, a couple practices, but he fits right in. He's awesome. He's bought in with the culture, wants to win a national championship just like everybody else.
Yeah, and Tameen, also at Nichols previously in Rookie of the Year in his conference as well, so he's a guy with a lot of talent. And I heard stories, before I really had seen him play, a couple of practice stories, just a freak athlete as well.
Oh, yeah.
And then obviously Spencer, like you said, knockdown shooter. He's a guy that came up very, very big for you in some games. We'll get into that a bit later. But, moving on, speaking of Rookie of the Year, your co-captain, Octavio Brito, his freshman year last year, LEC Rookie of the Year, first at Keene State in a while, and then this year makes the jump to third-team All-Americans. Just talk about his freshman and sophomore year jump.
Oh, I mean, you normally say your freshman to sophomore year is the biggest jump, but with Octavio, I mean, I think every single year he's going to just take an absolute jump as he builds confidence in himself, grows into his body, and just keeps becoming the natural leader and player that he is. He's just an unbelievable teammate to have. I mean, it's great to have somebody that can just go out there and score. What was it? He had 37 or 36 in a game at Southern Maine, and you don't even notice it's happening either. It's just the game's flowing. Next thing you know, I got people on the sideline that were watching the game coming up to me like, whoa, Octavio had 37, and you don't even notice it happens. I mean, and he's one of the most unselfish people too. Like you don't hear about, he scores 30 points, you don't hear about it. He's just gonna just be himself, go out there, he's young at heart. Like he's just such a character, and he's just a great person to have around the team, and to be a co-captain alongside him is just great. I mean, I know I have another year, but Keene State's in great hands with him, and he's just, I see such great things happening with him. I mean, he could be one of the best players, if not the best player to ever come through Keene State, and I believe in him, and I think he will be, so, yeah.
Yeah, and it's cool, like he's only halfway through, and obviously has several accolades as well as you. Just talk about, if you've been to a game before, you guys play off each other so well, You make a defensive play, he gets the ball in transition, you're running with him, alley-oop, I've seen it several times. Just talk about or how those plays translate to your relationship on and off the court.
Yeah, it's funny that I watch a couple of games, and you see, like, I'll pin a shot, Octavio will go up the court and throw an alley-oop, and I'm like, what are the odds that happens every single time? It's funny, but it's the connection that we all have, It's just not Octavio and I, it's everybody on the court that does it together. I mean, a lot of people don't get as much talk about them and publicity as they should, as Octavio and I do. But every single person on our team is just so helpful and important to what we've done and established and accomplished. And I mean, if guys aren't in certain spots, a lot of those alley-oops don't happen. A lot of we don't draw as much penetration if I'm not diving down and other guys are cutting just as hard. I mean, we have unlimited talent on our team. So Octavio and I mean, we have a good connection. We've had some great conversations where we want to change this program and do a lot of cool things that we keep to ourselves. But it's ultimately about just having that same goal, having that same mindset, and just doing whatever it takes to win. I mean, we connect pretty easily. I mean, there's not much like structure or anything that we really do. It kind of just comes naturally, and I mean, that's what great players do. So, yeah.
And you obviously mentioned a couple of those guys without saying their names, but your backcourt this year consisted of two guys that are juniors, Nate Seau and Mason G. Baptiste. Seau and they're both players that are going to go balls to the walls at all times. Seau numerous times is guarding their best player full court. So just talk about Mason and Nate's impact on this team.
Yeah, I mean, Mason and Nate both don't get enough exposure and talk about it. People don't talk about them as much. I mean, you think about it, you go into a game and you watch some film and it's like, all right, these teams are really good at doing this, but then you implement the fact that you're going to have Nate guarding you full court. He doesn't get tired ever, and he's going to just continue to pressure you. And he's a point guard's nightmare. I mean, if I couldn't imagine being a point guard going up and down the court and having to have him on me the entire time, because he doesn't run out of energy. He's strong as an ox, and he literally runs circles around the defenders, and I feel like refs sometimes have to bail him out because it's just you can't do anything about it. And he's just like, he's one of the most unselfish people too. I mean, he doesn't care about statistics. He doesn't care if he has 20 points or 5 points or 10 assists or no assists. It doesn't matter to him. He's just an absolute competitor. And then there's Mason, right? Mason is probably our best off-ball defender. I mean, you put him on the best player. We had him on Kendall Robinson in the LEC Conference Championship, and although he may be undersized compared to Kendall, I mean, he did a hell of a job. He makes these people have to really earn every single shot, and he just plays with maximum effort. And then you go down on the other end, and he's a three-way scorer. He can shoot the three. He can pull up mid-range. He can finish on your big man. I mean, we just have such a dynamic team, and these guys are just so great. They're all bought into what they do. I mean, we have guys that could go to a different program and average 20 and be the best player. We have multiple guys that are first-team all-conference. I mean, if you had to ask me, I think our entire starting five is the first-team all-conference. But, obviously that's not going to happen. So these guys that we have are just unbelievable. And Mason, Nate, Jarek is another guy that's just absolute animal. So.
Yeah, and talk about Jarek. He's a walk-on. You played with him all the years you've been here so far, and unfortunately you won't have him next year. Just talk about his impact and what it's going to mean when he's gone.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy to think about that. We won't have guys like Jarek and Edwin and Max on the team, and Tyler Dill, and all of our seniors that are going to be gone. But Jarek has been here since I came here as a freshman. I mean, he was a part of the LEC championship team the year before I came in, and his story. I mean, I'm sure people have seen the article. You've seen his article. His story of just not being given anything and having to earn absolutely everything. I remember he wasn't playing at all our freshman year in the first half of the season, and we came back from Christmas break getting ready to go to the College of Worcester in Ohio, and Jarek happened to get on the bus, and he was running late to the bus, so he rushes over and gets on the bus before we leave, and he gets on the plane and realizes he forgot his phone. And we're like, what in the world? Like, you forgot your phone? We're going to Ohio for a week or something like that. And I always tell him, I'm like, I swear, like, and he says it all the time too. He's like, that's like part of the moment that changed his career. I mean, the kid works out probably 10 hours a day. I swear he's in the gym, lifting, shooting, and he just doesn't leave. He wants to be the best version of himself every day. I mean, if everybody could have his work ethic, it would be unbelievable. I mean, he just works all day long, super hard, and then so we get to Ohio, right? Back to the story, and he gets an opportunity to come in because one of our point guards ended up not coming back and playing with us. Our freshman year was a crazy year, so one of our point guards ended up deciding not to come back and play with us. That was a really good friend of mine. And Jarek got the opportunity to come in and play. He held it down. He was the best point guard on the court. He was the best player on the court the entire time. Granted, we got smoked when we were out in Worcester, but it gave him some confidence and a foundation to build off of. And once he got it, he just plays so hard. He's a strong point guard that can just bully his defender, and he's just does what it takes to win. And it translates. He's grown so much as a person and as a player throughout the years that I'm really proud of him, and he's helped me develop into the person that I am today too. So that's Jarek.
Yeah, and you mentioned under the radar, and I got to watch all your games from a great seat, and I fell in love with Jarek's game.
Yeah.
He's not a guy who's going to score, and I don't really think he cares about scoring. I think he
Right.
just wants the team to succeed, and
Yeah.
he's going to make every play, and he's going to play the system the way you need him to.
Yeah, and he's a guy that it's like you don't notice. I mean, he hit some
Absolutely.
big shots this year. I mean, he hit a huge three against Tufts, and he hit a huge three on a kick out to the 45, like the wing area, and he hit a three against Westcon when it was in the LEC championship. I mean, for guys that were talking about him not being a shooter and teams scouting him like he's not, I mean, he has hit some very clutch threes. And when he's confident in himself and we're all confident in him, he's just an absolute stud. And it, like going back to it, doesn't seem like he's always a scorer, but he just does it so quietly where it's like a backdoor cut here, a dive here where you just get there, offensive rebound, he puts it back up. He's just a tough son of a gun. He just gets up there and just does what it takes to win.
Yeah, and it's those 45 cuts, like you mentioned, a guy drives from the opposite wing, and then he's always cutting in, crashing the boards, offensive rebounds, or he gets the ball and puts it up. So just going to move on to some of those moments you mentioned with at least Jarek. Obviously, I'm the play-by-play announcer. I tell a lot of people that I got the best seat in the house for one of the best teams in the country. I want to hear it from you first, though. Just name a couple of moments this season that stick in your memory.
I mean, the entire trip out to Indiana when we went out and played Marietta and Maryville was just an unbelievable experience. I mean, we all got so close there in the hotel room. We all were, just having such a good time. There was nothing else besides basketball and just hanging out with the guys. So we all built a really good bond there, and I thought it was really, really beneficial to us doing a back-to-back early in the year, where it translated that we were getting ready for the national tournament, like way beforehand, way before a lot of teams. So that's a really good moment in our career. Like we beat Maryville and then beat the number 17 team Marietta at the time, and we were like, we're rolling right now. Like we all had a lot of confidence in ourselves after that. So that was a good moment. Every time we played Westcon this year was a battle, and that was a lot of key moments that I enjoyed. I love seeing Spencer hit 6 threes, and both times that we played Westcon at home, we were trailing late in the second half and had to make a comeback. So all those games were a good moment, and I mean, winning the LEC championship is always fun, and the tournament game, I mean, we had 4 games in a row sold out. It was semifinal, LEC championship, first round, and the round of 32 of the national tournament. So the environment that the Keene community brought, like not only just the students here, but the community outside of Keene State, was just absolutely amazing. I mean, those are the times that you live for. I mean, you look into the crowd and there's 2,000 people, and you're just like, not many people get to enjoy these moments, even though it's just a Division III program in Keene, New Hampshire, in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's the moments that you play for. It's our tournament, our national tournament that we all love. So those are some key moments. And then going out to Swarthmore again was another fun moment. Going back to play there again, enjoying some time with the guys out there. And granted, the game didn't go the way we wanted to, but playing in the Sweet 16 is something that you can look at, build off of, and it's a great moment in life. We'll all look back at it and be pretty happy about it. So. Yeah,
and you mentioned several of those teams. Marietta, you go to Ohio and have to play them. Final Four team from last year, and it's early in the season. What does a blowout victory against that type of program mean, especially that early in the season?
Yeah, I guess it just goes to show that we could compete with anybody, right? Like a lot of teams, Marietta had a lot of hype. They're a great team, great program. Final Four the year before. I mean, not many teams can do that and say they did that. So a year in and year out, they're going to build. They're going to have a great program, right? They're going to have great teams. They're going to be hard to beat. So them being ranked 17 when we beat them and beat them significantly, I think it just gave us a lot of exposure and a lot of talk. It maybe helped us play a little bit better here and there in certain times in games, but ultimately it really just started giving us that national recognition where teams were starting to vote us on top 25. Not that really meant anything, but it was just good to just it helped get fans in the crowd, and it's helping with recruiting, being able to say that you're a number, whatever, we finished 9 or 10 or something like that. It's good to get recruiting here and get fans to be on board.
And another moment, you talked about Spencer Aronson. The first home game against Western Connecticut, you're down 10 and with 5 minutes left, and then Octavio fouls out, one of your better scorers. Just talk about the emotions during that comeback.
You feel like, personally, I feel all the emotions like after the game, after it all happens. When you're in the moment, you don't really feel any, like you're just playing as hard as you can, trying to do what it takes to win. And we've been in that moment, not specifically in a game, but we rep that in practice many times beforehand, where we would go play against our teammates in practice, and it would be, we were down 15 or something like that with 8 minutes left, and we would see if we could make that comeback, just to say, like, we're not playing the scoreboard, we're playing to keep playing hard, every possession matters. And then if a team were to beat us when the clock says 0-0, then we would shake their hand and be like, hey, you got us today. But when you keep playing till the end, anything can happen. I mean, you've seen it in the national tournament games right now. Like, I swear every single team that's down ends up winning it. And I mean, it happened to be the case then, right? Like, there's no quit when you're playing as hard as you can every single possession.
Yeah, and I believe San Diego State was down 14 at some point last night. They ended up winning, obviously, at the buzzer. But
they did not deserve to win that game, not at all. They were playing terrible all game, and then somehow they pulled it up, and they're a tough team. So.
And it's crazy. Could be the first West Coast team since like 1997 if they pull it off to win. And they're a 5 seed. Nobody expected them to be there either. So.
Yeah, right. They got a tough battle against UConn. So
they do. UConn looks legit right now. Speaking of Connecticut, that second WestCon game, I remember I go up to the crowd and talk to my parents about it. I'm like, it's not looking too great right now, Just talk about what the halftime speech was like. How do you and the upperclassmen get your guys going?
Yeah. It's funny because sometimes it's not even myself or Octavio going in there and kind of talking to guys. It's everybody on the team. Everybody's picking out little things that they see that we could be doing better. It's a group conversation that we're all just trying to like point out what we can do better, what we're not like. When we're like, we have like stats that we go for is 10 10 10, 10 threes, 10 rebounds, less than 10 offense rebounds, less than 10 turnovers for the other team. So we always talk about those little intangible goals throughout the halftime speech. So like we know what our scout is. If we're not doing something right, like we're coaching it before anybody has to tell us. I mean, it's everybody on the team. So we get into halftime and we're not against WestCon and we're not performing the way we want to. It's like, hey, we've been in this position before. We're going to keep on fighting every single possession and just stick together, be the first person in the huddle, make sure that we huddle more than the other team, and just try and keep doing every little thing better than the other team, and the result will take care of itself.
And it's also, you've got the home crowd behind you as well.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Once you come out in the second half and you start making those plays, it almost feels like a fresh new game.
Right.
You're like, after you take that break, you make those shots, the crowd goes wild.
Oh, yeah.
All that stuff just builds up, and then the momentum builds up, and eventually you guys won that game,
Right.
of course.
And it's quick too. I mean, the environment at Keene is awesome. We always say that we're a second half team. So whenever we come out, I mean, I swear, I feel like Octavio will just go off in the beginning of the second half every single time. He'll come down, drive left, and hit a pull-up or a floater, and then it's like we all look at each other and like, oh, yep, here you go. You're going to get Keene State right now. And then we just get going really fast and just never let the gas get out of the pedal.
And it helps too. It seemed like most of the time when you guys, especially when you were down, the play would be set up for Octavio, that little handoff to him, and then it's either one dribble pull up or one dribble to get to the rim and that type of stuff. And then you mentioned that you're a second half team. We saw it time in, time out, especially during the second half of the season. A team like Eastern, I believe you were down 14 in the first half, ended up winning by 23 or so. And obviously you guys have had some battles with them over the past couple of years. Just some bad blood.
Yeah, I mean, the LEC it's a tough league. I mean, I think it was down this year towards the bottom of it, but you're going to get everybody's, especially having a ranking of next to your name, you're going to get everybody's best every single night. So you need to be prepared for it. I mean, teams like Eastern, like you said, we've been having bad blood with them for quite some time now. Ever since Coach King got here, they've been battling back and forth. So Eastern always has that little, like, they want to get into you, they want to play you hard, they want to beat you. Every team wants to beat you. Nobody's coming just to get beat by 20. So they're going to give you a punch, and if you don't respond, then you're going to get beat by 25. So these teams you're playing college athletes. Everybody's really good at what they do. They're all here for a reason. So being ready for every single game, no matter who it is, and not playing the team and the name on their jersey is very important, because next thing you know, you could go play the worst team in the league and they have a shot at the buzzer to win.
Yeah, exactly. And then sometimes it literally is a punch that is being thrown. You talk about that, especially with Eastern.
Yeah.
So moving towards the end of the season, something I always watched on TV was the selection show. Kind of cool for me personally to be there this year. What does it mean for you and the squad to, not only see your team, or not only you see it or get to have that experience in back-to-back seasons,
Right.
but you see your name on the screen as a host city this
Yeah.
time. Just talk about what that means for you.
It's a great moment. It's funny because you're all sitting there and you're all you get super nervous. When we're playing in a game, or myself personally, I don't get nervous or get the jitters or anything like that. But when you're sitting there, oh my gosh, especially a year like this where you're right on the border of being able to host or not, and we're all thinking you see the things on Twitter and all the whether you try to ignore it or not, there's things on Twitter that just constantly pop up about who these guys predict that are going to host, who they think they're going to be playing. So you see 8 different mock brackets before you even get there. So you're trying to pick it out in your head who you're going to play and where you're going to play. And we didn't care. We wanted to play it at home, obviously, as anybody did, but we were ready. We were prepared to be on the road and play in that environment too. I mean, we were in Indiana, like we were talking about before, where we played 2 games on the road. We played some of our best basketball of the year, and we were ready to do whatever it took. But to be in that moment with all your teammates, and you're nobody's on their phones, enjoy the moment, all these things, and then you see your name pop up as hosting against the team against Baruch, and then on top of that, as we're all excited, next thing you know, we see Tufts in the same exact category as us, and that's a special moment for Spencer, obviously. So it was just a thrill of enjoyment, and everybody had such a good time. I mean, right after that, we were all we want to play right now. So it was good because, I mean, guys like Jarek and Edwin and all of our seniors that thought, they might have played their last game at home against WestCon in the LEC Tournament Championship are now granted at least one more game, possibly 2 more games, which it was, to play at home. So that's always a great feeling. And the show was awesome too. We love that.
Yeah, and of course the Aronson brothers did end up getting to play each other. It was a really special moment as well. Obviously Spencer's brother Tyler getting his 1,000th point. And then you guys were able to win that game as well. So how special was it to win both those games, especially at home?
It was great. Getting into that first round, we knew that we couldn't look past it, because ultimately we obviously wanted to win the national championship, but we knew that we had to make it out of the first weekend first, which we didn't get to do the first year that we went into it. So having that chance to play Baruch at home with a sold-out crowd, everybody was on our side, it's a great feeling just to be able to play in front of all those guys and, being prepared for it. I mean, everybody was locked in. We ended up beating them, and it was great. We all had a great game, right? So to be able to go and play Tufts right after on a back-to-back, we knew that we had done it before in the season. We were ready for it. We talked about it. We mentally prepared, had a good meal, sat down and just hung out for a little bit, and had scout late at night. I think we were in there at 11:30 scouting Tufts to prepare for that game. And we had to make sure our bodies were right, get some rest, and be ready for the game on Saturday against Tufts. And I thought we took care of business. We handled it well. It was a great game. I mean, Tyler came out hot, got his 1,000th, but it was a battle that entire game. It was a physicality battle. Tufts was strong. They wanted us. We wanted them. Everybody wanted to make it to the Sweet 16. And when you play for your season, you're going to keep throwing punches at each other, like we've said a couple times. But to beat them and make it into the Sweet 16 was a big stepping stone, like we've been saying for the program, right? So, we made it one round farther. We made it out of the first weekend, but it's now, what are we going to do to stack 2 weekends to make it into the Final Four? What does our offseason look like to do that? How are we going to build ourselves for that? How do we prepare for it?
Yeah, and also that Tufts team is an SCAC school, so not only do you have to play back-to-backs, but you have to play a great team from a great conference. And, of course, earlier in the season you played a Middlebury team that is also part of that conference, so it was kind of like a revenge against the conference game, especially at home. And, I think I've heard Coach Cade talk about it. It's like you just got to worry about winning a 4-team tournament each weekend.
Yeah.
So piecing that together isn't always the easiest thing as well.
No, it's not. There's a little bit of luck involved in it, obviously, right? Like the matchups that you get, and the ball could fall one time your day when you catch an alley-oop to win a conference championship, or you could miss a shot at the buzzer, right? There's a lot of luck involved in it, but right, you got to stack the tournaments, right? You're playing a 4-team tournament every weekend. Playing in SCAC school was, we all had that chip on our shoulder. I mean, especially because it was Spencer's brother, but also losing to Middlebury earlier in the year, knowing Tufts had beat Middlebury. I mean, it was like, we're ready for this. We want this again. We know what we're capable of. It's like it's a revenge, like you said. So.
Yeah, and moving more into some individual stuff, you obviously talked about Middlebury. They have a great guy in the front court, obviously. D3Hoops.com Player of the Year, right. Alex Sobel. Of course, earlier in the season, the Emerson guy, Jared Houston.
Yeah.
You match up with him, and then it seems like Tufts and Swarthmore have a plethora of guys that they can throw at you that are your height and maybe even taller with Tufts and the Bernstein guy.
Right.
How much of that is you just preparing it for it on film, and then how much of it is you getting into the game and embracing the matchups?
Yeah, I mean, they're the matchups that you circle on the calendar, right? I mean, I was like preseason 5th-team All-American or something like that. I mean, I have my own individual goals that I have set for myself. So, it gives you a little bit more drive to go out there and play your best game against guys like that. I mean, Houston was a great matchup. We played guys like John Adams and John Lowther from WPI that were preseason All-Americans early in scrimmages. So, you get to go up against the best of the best and see what you're made out of. All that work that you put in the off season. Like, is it working out, or you gotta have to do more? So, there's always countless amount of hours that you can put into the gym to be the best version of yourself. So, I was obviously pretty disappointed in myself after the Middlebury game and the way that I performed and the way the team performed. And I looked at it, how it went. I watched the film a couple times, and I was just like, it's something that we can make a big stepping stone. Our goal was never to beat Middlebury in the regular season game. Our goal was to win a national championship and compete for something way bigger than a regular season game. So being able to understand that and put it into perspective like that, I think is really important. So obviously I had games like that circled on my calendar where I wanted to perform my best to prove that I personally thought I was the best player in the country, right? That I was a first-team All-American, that I was whatever it is you want, whatever accolades you want to name. I wanted all of them, obviously, but you have another year. We won a national championship. You win games, you get accolades. Like, it is what it is. I just want to win a national championship. Really, I probably said it like 100 times. It's just what I want. So that's ultimately what I aim for.
Yeah, and of course you mentioned some of the personal accolades you just had. You're on the Bevo Francis watch list. You were an All-American. You're Defensive Player of the Year in the LEC and Player of the Year in the LEC. Just what are some things you've done to get to this point?
I worked out, lifting. Like, I had to develop my body, right, become more physical. I worked out for at least 300 out of. I could tell you, I could go look at it and tell you what it is. I worked out every single day, basically, besides 20 of them since the season had ended. Lifting, I worked on my mind, just, developing, reading books, just putting my life in a better spot that I could put things into perspective and understand what I need to do to reach the bigger picture, the bigger goals. And, I wanted to just be the best leader possible every single day, and I thought that's what was going to put us in the best position to win games, be the best versions of ourselves, and ultimately, like I said before, I knew accolades would come along with winning games. So I knew that being the best leader, being the best captain, being the best teammate was gonna bring awards and like that. And Coach K and I had talked about that, but you know, I don't know how to explain. I don't like talking about what I've done to get here. I've put in countless hours. I can say that, really.
Yeah, and I've heard Coach Kate mention multiple times how much you do work on your body, of course, coming in 4 years ago and to now. Do you ever, look back on what you were like your freshman year and just think about the process?
Yeah, I can't even believe that I'm the same player that I was as I came in as a freshman. Like, you look back at it, and that's anybody in their career once they finish or once they're in the mix of it. You look back and you're like, wow, if I played myself one-on-one when I was a freshman, I would kill it. I would kill my old self. But yeah, like I look back at it and I just look at it like I'm not even the same person that I was when I first came here as a freshman, mentally, physically, athletic, skill-wise, all of that. Like to become a great leader, you have to really develop that role and be that role every single day of your life. So understanding what I had to do to get there took a lot of sacrifice and a lot of things that I didn't want to. I wanted to go out and party and stuff like that, but I decided that it was better for me to just not do that and always work on myself. So I think that's something that I look back at more as my freshman year. I was out a lot more and not focused as I was as I came to my junior and senior year, and it just feels so much better when you know that all your hard work's starting to pay off, and it's time to step it up a notch and keep going harder.
Yeah, and there's a certain satisfaction, and maybe you feel like you haven't reached that. Of course,
right.
The main goal is the national championship, of course. Moving away from that, kind of before you got here, and you can correct me if I butcher this, Assabet Valley, correct?
Yeah. Right.
Of course, you're over in the 1,000-point score there. What does that mean for you, knowing that your name's always going to be in that gym?
It's funny. What means more to me is that my best friend, Jerry, is the all-time winning scorer, and we played together. And we actually got to play him this year when he goes to Westfield. So having my name up on the banner with a couple of guys that I played with, guy RJ Grasso, and then Jerry McManus, and then myself, all being on that banner forever. I mean, I feel like we brought something to Assabet that you may not see for quite some time, especially being a tech school. Division IV, you don't see the talent that went through it, and we had a good team there. I mean, we wanted to win a state championship there, and then lost in the district final. So the team ended up winning the state championship. But having your name up on a board and a banner forever is obviously something that's super cool. Not many people get to experience that, so I'm very grateful for it. I mean, I didn't work as hard as I do now when I was in high school. I think if I worked harder, I mean, I probably could have scored a couple more points in high school. But ultimately, it helped me develop into the path and coming to Keene, and it was just the best experience ever. I mean, I'm grateful for all those times with my high school friends.
Yeah. What do you think your favorite memories were? Was it you reaching your 1,000 point, or watching your best friend become the all-time leading scorer at the school?
Well, my buddy scored it the first game of the year against South High in Worcester, and he had to score like 33 points or something like that to get it, and he ended up having 40 that game. So it was like so funny because we had talked about it for like a while in the preseason. Like, he's like, I just want to get it out of the way, this and that, and I'm like, 40 in the first game. If you do that, you'll get it. And he ended up going off and scoring 40 or something. It was like 38 or 40. They had the numbers wrong all over the place, but it was a lot of points to get his 1,000th point. So that was a good memory for me, obviously, just getting to share that moment with him. But my favorite moment in high school is when I did a 360 dunk. Like, that was like one of the best moments of my life. It was funny because I was just like sitting there in a game, and we were beating this team in the playoffs like pretty bad, and we're like, all right, we're gonna play a 1-3-1, and I was playing the top of the 1-3-1 because they were like when we played in high school, like we weren't playing great competition, so it was funny. And I'm playing the top of the 1-3-1. We just got out of time. I'm like, like if we get a fast break, I'm doing a 360, and then we ended up getting a fast break, and I did a 360, and it got posted on like Overtime and all those apps and stuff like those social medias and stuff. So at the time, it was pretty funny. And like it was one of the best moments of my life. I'm like, probably never going to do that again. So I've always thought about trying to pull that out one day in college, but I just don't think it'll work the same.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. I can't imagine going against you at the top of a 1-3-1 either. That's just a nightmare. Don't know how he would even make a single pass.
No, yeah, it was something Coach Kane would never try, and I don't blame him. I definitely don't blame him.
Yeah, and then talk about kind of your recruitment, and talk about kind of the first time you met the coaching staff here.
I met Coach Kane when I was at Elite 75 at WPI, where he actually went to school before, and I was talking with the Salem State coach, I think, Coach Harvey, and then Coach Kane had introduced himself to me, and I ended up seeing him a couple times at games. He hit him and the coaching staff as soon as our season started. I mean, they were at absolutely every single game, and I was getting recruited by quite a few schools. And it came down to Keene State and Worcester State. It was really a decision between, did I want to stay home or did I want to come out to Keene, which at the time I thought Keene's an hour and 20 minutes from me, so at the time I thought it was so much farther than it was. I mean, it really is right down the road. But Worcester State was 25 minutes from my house. Great campus, great coaching staff. Coach Humley is the head coach there that actually coached with Coach Kane here beforehand. So it's clear that they're really close and similar. That's why I liked both the schools. But Coach Kane and I and Coach Hastings and Coach Magyar at the time were at every single game. So I had built up a great relationship with them before even coming to school. And then when I was doing my visits here, I think I came up here quite a few times just to get the feel for campus, because it was such a big decision for me that I was like, I want to make sure that I'm making the right choice. So I dragged it out for as long as possible. Coach Kane probably hated me because of how long I dragged it out. It ended up going into my volleyball season where I committed to playing at Keene. I decided I was going to play volleyball for my first time. For my first season, I never played it before, and one of my coaches was like, "Yo, you should play." So I was like, "All right, screw it, I'll play." And I ended up leading the state in kills in volleyball. So it was hilarious because it was me and Jerry, my buddy that scored the all-time winning scorer at my school, playing volleyball, never playing it, and it was a good time. So Coach Kane had come to a game and stuff, and I ended up committing to come to Keene State at a volleyball game, which was funny. But Coach Kane and I were best friends before I even came here, so we had such a good relationship that I knew that I was going to come here and be in good hands. I mean, the time and effort they put into recruiting me was just not many schools would do that for somebody. So I knew that this was the place for me the whole time. Just want to make it hard on them.
Yeah, I'm sure if you talk to him today, he would not really care. No regrets with that.
I'd hope not. I'd hope not.
And then also your volleyball coach, can't really blame him for trying to recruit you to go play.
Yeah, definitely not. I'm like, if I played volleyball for 4 years, I'd be at UCLA playing volleyball.
Insane.
But it was fun to play because it was just so much different than playing basketball. It's a completely different sport, and I had a good I went to a tech school, so it was 1 week I'm going and playing, I'm doing carpentry, and the next week I'm in academics. So I had developed a great friendship with a bunch of guys in my carpentry shop, and we would just hang out and build cabinets and stuff like that, and just screw around all the time. And a lot of them had played volleyball, so they were all like you gotta come play for a year. You're gonna be nasty. If we can do it, they were all unathletic kids, and if you can do it, you're gonna be really good at volleyball. So I was like, all right, I'll take a chance. And the assistant coach on our basketball team was the head coach of the volleyball team, and we had a good relationship, so he kind of convinced me to do it, and it was fun. I enjoyed it. I wish I played more.
Yeah, definitely. And you talked about, Coach Kane relentlessly trying to recruit you. Besides that, what really stood out about Keene that you liked?
The guys that were here on campus at Keene were tremendous. I mean, I developed a friendship with a lot of guys, lifelong friendships, but one guy in particular, Miguel Prieto, I still talk to him to this day. I mean, he comes up to games, and there's not too many people that I show genuine love to, but he was FaceTiming me, calling me all the time, texting me you got to come here. And I remember playing pickup with them, and we were talking about it the other day when I first came here to play pickup, and like I went up to dunk on one of the kids. I missed the dunk, but everybody on the team was like, oh my God, like we need this kid to come here. And me and Miguel had conversations over the phone about coming here, just like Coach Kane and I had about coming here and what our roles would look like and what we could make Keene State into. And he was a great friend of mine on and off the court, and still is to this day. I mean, we have a great relationship still. So he was one of the big factors, and then everybody else on the team too. I mean, guys like Ben Olsen and James. I mean, Ben Olsen I looked up to, and still look up to this day as just a tremendous leader. He would sacrifice his body and take charges all the time. So I swear he probably took like 50 charges in my freshman year. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, we weren't very good, but when we played defense, if someone got blown by, I was likely they were going to get a charge called on him because Ben was going to step up. So when I started taking a couple charges this year, and I would always be like, talk to Ben or his dad that would come to the games and be like, I took that charge for Ben. I took that charge for Ben. And it was funny because I always laughed about it. He was such a good guy. He's like a big brother to me, you know. He helped me develop into the person I am today too.
Yeah. And you know, you talk about guys like Ben, of course, and James. When you were younger, were those the guys that took you under their wing?
Yeah, I would say my freshman year was really weird compared to what it is now. It's just a completely different program, completely different guys, and all of these guys were so helpful in helping me develop. I would say, yeah, Ben, James, Miguel, CD, you could name it. Like, everybody on the team was just, trying to help all of us win. We all still had the same goals of winning. Back then it was probably more of a conference championship and building up our program, but everybody took each other out of their wing, and everybody's helped me become into the player that I am and the leader that I am. So, yeah, I mean, Ben Olsen stands out, James stands out, and Miguel stand out a lot to me about, taking me under their wing and stuff like that. Yeah.
And then, of course, you played a lot your freshman year, I believe. You started in all games but 3, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Talk about their transition from, high school basketball to college basketball. Was it easy? Was it hard?
The pace of play and physicality was the biggest difference to me. I mean, when I played at Assabet, it was just very, very easy. Like, you weren't playing very good competition, so I knew I had to get stronger and faster. And one of the other biggest things was just my effort level. Like, I never tried playing like as hard as I possibly could every single minute of a game when I was in high school because we didn't need to, which sounds crazy to say looking back at it. I literally just didn't, we didn't have to try in high school to beat teams, and I didn't know what giving my maximum effort was. So to come into college and play against guys that are stronger, bigger, faster, they have more experience than you, it was tough. I mean, I held my own for a while, and I played a lot of minutes because, it was basically a reset for the program after losing a guy like Ty Nichols and winning an LAC championship. I mean, the impact he had on the team was just unbelievable. So you always have a year or two where you have to build back up after losing a guy like that. So I got lucky in a sense where I got to play a lot of minutes and be a leader from the start when I came here as a freshman. So yeah, I forgot what the question was. Honestly.
No, just the transition from high school.
Yeah,
to
right.
college.
So the transition was tough. The physicality and all that was tough. I definitely forgot that question.
And then just how long did it take for you to just realize, oh yeah, this is basketball. This is my sport. Just get comfortable and start producing numbers.
I started taking basketball a lot more serious once I started getting recruited, and then after my freshman year when I had a good year here, Coach Gade and I had talked about this, the jump that Octavio made, right? Like, we had been talking about it for myself. The freshman to sophomore year jump is your biggest jump. What are you going to do to build yourself and prepare yourself for the next season? So we had talked about goals and plans and stuff like that, and it ended up happening to be that next year was so weird because it was COVID, and my freshman year it ended up closing down in the Sweet 16. We weren't there, but that's when like all of campus shut down. We were all going home because of COVID. So coming back sophomore year, we had limited games at best, and we practiced a whole bunch. So it gave us, and we had a bunch of new guys like Nate, Mason, Jordan, a bunch of guys coming in. So it kind of was like a restart to the program and kind of just building what we wanted and having a vision. So that was a great experience, developing that.
And not to mention, I mean, of course, unfortunately, it got cut short. But in those 9 games, your sophomore year, I believe you were averaging 18 and 14. Like you're putting up senior year numbers.
It was so weird that year. That's why it was just you play the same teams twice. There were only 3 or 4 teams playing in it, and I was playing. I had a good season that year. We ended up getting absolutely demolished by UMass Dartmouth in the LEC championship, but it was good learning lessons. And it's the same exact thing that happened with Oswego the year before. We learned from UMass Dartmouth losing in the championship, learned from Oswego losing in the round of 32, and now I think we just look at Swarthmore the same way. I know we didn't perform the way we wanted to. We made it a step further, but we know what it takes to make it out of a weekend. Now we have to stack those weekends and prepare ourselves best.
And moving away from kind of those beginning seasons to just talk about your relationship with Coach Kane. Obviously set a program record, as I talked about before, in wins. Of course, that means Ryan Kane's most wins since coming here. Is it more special that you've known him and you've bonded with him for 4 years to be a part of the team that was set that record for?
Yeah, I mean, I still don't even really think about I keep forgetting that we set the most wins. It feels good to do that, especially for him. I mean, if you saw the countless amount of hours he spent studying film, developing game plans, scouting other teams, you name it, he spends so much time in that office because he's the head of the team. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, he recruits the guys, he coaches us. I mean, he doesn't take enough credit for what he's done for this program because we haven't achieved what we wanted to, but he puts countless hours in it. And one of the things that I do regret is he got his 100th career win last year against Middlebury, and I wasn't there for the game because I missed COVID testing, and I didn't end up going to play Middlebury out there, and they ended up beating them, and they were all like, screw Jeff, like we don't need Jeff, but he won his 100th win out there, so it was like, it was good for him, but I'm like, I wish I got to share that moment with him. But we'll get plenty of more wins and hopefully some better accolades than that. So our relationship's awesome, and I mean, seeing him succeed and win and play Coach of the Year, I mean, it doesn't really mean anything to him because he wants bigger goals. He's a humble guy. Doesn't really talk about his accolades of his past college career and stuff like that, but just seeing him succeed and being part of Keene State, it's just awesome. Love it every single moment of it.
Yeah, and you talk about his background a little bit, and I really had no clue that he was that good at WPI. I was reading like his bio one day, and it kind of caught me off guard. I was like, Jesus, I really had never heard of that.
I mean, the guy he just works so hard in everything he does. His work ethic is contagious, and I think that our conversations that we had throughout the years, he kind of developed it in me, is that work ethic of what it's going to take to be an All-American, a captain of a team that competes for a national championship. Those kinds of things aren't just handed out to anybody. You got to earn that kind of stuff and really work for it. So he may not have been the most skilled guy, but he worked harder and played harder than everybody. So he continues to just try and reinforce that into me, and I think he's done a great job at that.
Mm-hmm. And it really does not surprise me. You mentioned obviously he spends countless hours in his office preparing for each and every game, and you can see that on the sideline in the games. He's so passionate. He always gets on people. Just how long really did it take you to adjust to his passion and his getting on people, especially on the defensive side of the ball?
I mean, our relationship helped so much. I think if I didn't have a great relationship with him, it would have taken me a lot longer to get used to that. I mean, he's screaming all the time, his high intensity. I mean, me and him have gotten in countless arguments, like in timeouts and stuff like that, but it's because of both of us wanting to win so bad. And because we have that relationship that we know we can get into each other, and I'm like, yell at me when I'm not doing something, and then, when you're in the heat of the moment, I may respond. I used to respond in a different way than I do now, but we worked on that. We developed a relationship where it was like, we look at it after the game and we laugh at it and we're like what the heck was that? Well, why were we doing that? So we have a good relationship when it comes to that, and the transfer to his intensity. I mean, my high school coach had high intensity and played like that, and it was the same way where it came down to those plays mattered so much, and he would yell at us and stuff like that. But it's when you have coaches like that, it's about putting things in perspective, right? Like, you could have a coach who just sits on the sideline, doesn't say anything the entire game, but him putting so much of his energy into every single little detail shows you how much he cares and how much he trusts you and how much he believes that you can make that play. He wouldn't be mad at you if he didn't think you could make the play, but when you're out there and you screw up or make a poor decision, it's not always that he's getting on you for that. He's like getting on you for little things like effort, scrambling, right, talking to each other. It's not the X and O's always. It's sometimes just a little bit of something else.
Yeah, just a little bit of motivation here and there from him. He's almost distracting sometimes, though. Ref misses a call, he's all over the place on the sideline. It's really cool to see. And of course, you say your coach in high school was kind of like that, so that makes it easier as well. You don't really get a lot of high school coaches that are like that. But obviously, lucky for you that the transition from a passionate coach to a passionate coach is easy.
Yeah, most definitely.
And then just gonna bridge into like what you do in the off season. I know you're with ATR training a lot.
Yeah.
What is the main goal when you go and train with them? Is it bodybuilding? Is it mental, or is it just physical?
Well, I mean, when I'm with ATR, it's a basketball lifestyle. I grew up with the trainer's name is Albert Ortiz. I grew up with his son playing basketball, and we ended up we played against each other for a while, played on an AAU team, and we decided that we were going to make our own team, AAU team. So we grew up playing with a team called Central Mass Warriors. Played that from like 5th to 9th grade, and then it kind of broke up for like a year where I went and played on another AAU team, and then he started ATR training where he was just training guys, and but it was small at first, and then he had got access to a gym and then started an AAU team for my senior year, and I'd always been working out with him. I mean, he's been one of the closest relationships that I've had, him and his son, my entire life, and when it comes to basketball and off the court, I mean, we have a great relationship. But when we go there, I mean, he has his own facility now, and he trains high-level guys consistently. I mean, there's Division I guy, plenty of Division I guys, Division II, Division III, high school. He does kids. I mean, he's just a person that gives back to the community, and he doesn't ask anything for it. I mean, Albert is one of the closest people in my life that I know I can always call him, and he has my back. So going to him and being loyal to his training facility and working out with him is something that's really important to me. So we get out there, we shoot, we work hard. During COVID, we were running miles around just outdoor parks. He's always just willing to give up so much of his valuable time for others to make them better and help them succeed. And he never asks anything in return, so I'm always grateful for him and what he does. He's just an amazing human being.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you don't really have AAU anymore, but to go play pickup during the off season is still huge for you to stay in shape. Obviously, since you've been in college these past couple of years, I know you've been to some of Spence's summer runs.
Yeah.
Just talk about the competition there. Is there any matchups in particular that you look forward to, or have any stories from that? I
mean, off-season pickup here at Keene's always fun, right? Because you get to go against your own team, and it's kind of a step back from the season. You enjoy the little things about pickup, and just going out there and messing around. Obviously, you have a lot more structure to it, where it's not a college basketball game, but it's also not. You're not going there to joke around. You're going there to get better. So it's good to just go against your teammates. There's a little bit less pressure on you. You get to just go have fun, compete with each other. Because throughout the season's a long time, and this season went by so fast. I mean, it feels like yesterday that we were in the preseason preparing, but now that it's over, I mean, we can look back at it and just understand that what we have to work on. So the pickup here is always great. We always get to have fun, just be with the guys and stay in touch. Because you go from seeing each other every single day to if you don't have pickup and lifts, I mean, you may not see some guys for a couple days at a time. So getting the guys around each other is great. And then during the summer, going to Spence's runs he just gets high level basketball players to his runs. I mean, he's grown. We talk about it. He's grown his program and his brand so well. I mean, he has high major Division I guys at his runs, professionals at his runs, up and coming high school guys that are at his runs. So you never know who you're going to play against, because it's likely that there's going to be 5 teams with just all freak athletes that are playing at guys that are at UConn, guys that are at Brown, guys that are at Davidson. They're all over the place. And then there's guys from Assumption and Division II schools and Division III schools. So you don't know who you're going to play, but you know you're going there to get good competition and get better. So he does a great job of putting that together, and it's going to be an exciting summer to go to some of his runs and compete against the best talent in Massachusetts, Central Mass area.
Yeah, and obviously being a D3 guy going to that, you mentioned there's Division I players, there's players from everywhere. Is there kind of a chip on your shoulder, even though it's pickup, to just be like, yeah, I'm an All-American, I'm a good basketball player as well?
It's funny because, people look at like the D3, D1, and I'm sure if you're a Division I guy, you're looking at Division III it's like these guys aren't as good as me, they can't play with me. But it's like you go. There's a kid that was a first-team All-American last year on Illinois Wesleyan. Ended up doing his grad year at Bentley in the NE10 Division II, and he was I don't know what he ended up being, all-conference player, but he averaged like 15 and 10 at a D2 the next year. So the level. I always say there's different parts of Division III basketball. Like there's a level that isn't as great, and then there's the high level programs that are consistently competing for something special. And then there's like the All-American groups, and even the guys that are ranked regionally, and there's guys that aren't ranked at all. They're putting on any conferences that are just as great players. I mean, there's Division III has talent all over the place, and it's sometimes it's just you didn't get the same opportunity as another guy. You didn't get the same exposure as another guy. I mean, there's plenty of players in Division III that could play Division I. There's plenty of guys that are in Division I that should be playing Division III. So when you go out there and you can play a guy that goes to a Division I school, whether he has a great career there or not, you go out there with a chip on your shoulder and you want to show like, hey man, like I'm just as good as you at basketball, if not better.
Yeah, and then you obviously have that competition in the summer. Just compare it to compare that competition to what you see here at Keene State.
That's a good question. Comparison. It's much different. I think once you get back to school and you're playing against your team and you're working for something, you play at a just completely different level. Like you're playing so much harder. You have a better connection with everybody on the court. Yeah. There's a like-minded goal. So like the energy and connection between everybody is just much different. As where you go to play pickup, it's you may be playing with a couple of your teammates, or you may be playing against a couple of your teammates. So it's much different how hard guys go. There are a lot of like Spence's runs and other runs that get a good majority of guys that are going to go in there to play as hard as play hard and get better. But there's always it's just so much different, right? Like pickup is a great way to stay in shape, get better in the off season, get exposure, make connections with guys, and then once you get back, ultimately everybody that's going in the off season to play pickup with great other players and great programs and great brands are ultimately doing that to be better in their season. So once you come back, it's like, hey, what were you doing this off season to get better and be the best version of yourself once you get back to the season.
And you talk about coming back to Keene State after a summer being at home. As the leader of this team, how do you keep the guys locked in, and what does it look like in the fall when you guys get back?
When we get back in the fall, we do a lot of workouts, running in the mornings. We did a lot of 6 a.m. stuff this fall, lifting consistently every week and playing pickup, trying to play pickup at a high level as soon as we get back. Just to get our minds right, start talking about our goals. I mean, throughout the summer, we try and connect as much as possible. I think we got up here once or twice to play pickup just to see the guys. We do quite a few things just to get guys involved, and hoping guys are staying connected and talking to each other, just to have that big picture always on your mind and like what you're working for. For me, this past summer was a little bit more difficult because I had worked an internship that had me traveling all around the New England area. I went to like 7 different states. So staying in touch with that guys as much as I wanted to, like personally connections, I was talking to guys as much as I want, but getting together with people as much as I wanted, playing pickup up in Keene as much as we wanted was a little bit more difficult. So I think this year what a lot of guys are doing are going to try and stay up in Keene this summer. There's a good majority of guys that are, and then everybody's really remotely from around here, which is something that's so great. There's a couple guys from outside of the state that are like flying distance, but a lot of guys are traveling an hour and a half, 2 hours to get back here for a weekend where we can play basketball and get together. So we just always want to have that big picture goal in our minds so that we know what we're working for, and guys will communicate with each other in our group chat just to like see how everybody's doing and all that.
Yeah. And a lot of people live close, of course. How important as a freshman is it to come to those runs in the summer and kind of just connect with those guys and start to be on the same page as them coming into Keene for your freshman season?
Yeah, I mean, the earlier the better. Like, we had quite a few guys that were coming in as freshmen come early to come play pickup. So you just get around the guys, you know what you're getting into. You get to finally play with some of them for the first time, and that's your first impression on what your fit's going to look like here. And I think it's great. I mean, when you get here early on campus and you're including the freshmen into the culture and helping them understand the values of what we do, it's going to set you ahead of programs that aren't doing that. And I'm sure a lot of programs do it, but that's something that we're trying to be the best at, is just involving guys and making sure they fit right away and they feel comfortable, being part of the team.
And just going to probably wrap some things up. Of course, several times you mentioned national championship is always on your mind. Just what are some other things we can expect to see from not only you but the team coming into next season?
I think it's just going to be it's going to be an exciting year. Guys are all excited to come back, work hard all off season, just to play in front of a great crowd. I mean, I think we built up a good community around here now that's going to keep following our games. So hopefully that we play, have a good year like we had this year, and elevate off that and bring something to the school that is exciting and gives people something to look forward to every single week. So yeah, I think guys are going to work hard, and we're all excited for the upcoming season. We want it to be now, but it's not going to be for a little bit. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. Of course, I was able to work a lot of your games this year.
Yeah.
Just so many great moments. Really opens your eyes to what high-level Division III basketball can look like.
Oh yeah.
So just want to, again, thank you for being here. Make sure to check Jeff out next season. Going to be some big things from him, of course, coming off an All-American season. So this has been the first episode of Northeast Hoopcast. I'm Logan Prato. This is Jeff Hunter. Thank you for watching.